Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and today we're going to take a look at toxic relationships, but from a profiler's point of view, as opposed to a psychiatric point of view. And I came into this particular video via the show, it's a series, Toxic, and I watched one of the beginning of that, and then I ended up at House of Hammer, and then I ended up at this crazy story about a woman who survived her parachutes not opening because her husband made them not open, and she fell like, what was it, 4,000 feet to the ground out of the airplane and survived, as she says. Crazy stuff. Now, I want to talk a lot about how these relationships happen, in this particular case, we have three different men who I'm going to talk about, who are the perpetrators of what I would consider abuse, if not homicide, or attempted homicide. And the three women in these cases, and in the case of a house of over here for you, got your. I'm going to just try and lean over for you. House of Hammer. You might have many women who theoretically have been abused by Artie Hammer, if you believe what they say. So in this particular video, we're talking about three men and 3+ women. The men being the quote perpetrators and the women being quote the quote victims. And I just want to say this to any male who is here, like you, Christoph, that I've done other videos where we have the female perpetrator and the male victim. So it's not a one-way street, okay? And I'm not one of these people that is just out here to trash men. So I just want to say hello to everybody who is in the chat room. I think I've said hello to most people. And Susan just arrived, and Mary just arrived. And if I do this a lot, or if I pick up, if I grab this nice, delicious soursop, frozen soursop, which you make into a wonderful Jamaican drink, it's because I'm putting this on the back of my neck. It is hotter than heck in Maryland, and the air conditioning isn't functioning enough to make it pleasant here. So that feels good. So anyway, if you would like to be in the chat room, I want to say this before I start the show. If you'd like to be in the chat room, I do 2 live shows a week, or one like this, a live case show, and I do a live hangout during the week, and that is patron only. Click below, join. It's $5 a month, and that helps support an educational channel. And it's also a really nice group of people who I get to know, and they get to know each other, and it makes my live shows very pleasant. I don't have any moderators, so rather than open up every time I do a live show, open it up to the world where you get a whole bunch of interesting people rolling through and making havoc in your chat room, I prefer to have a chat room where I am confident that the people who are here to learn and they're on their good behavior. So it's a very pleasant chat room. Occasionally I do open it up to the public, do one live occasionally for the public, and there's usually some reason behind it. But I want to let you know, if you don't want to join Patreon, please just subscribe to the channel. All of my videos are public. There's nothing hidden. This is an educational channel. I don't hide things just so I can make some extra money on the side. So I want everybody to be able to, learn from the video. So please subscribe, click the bell, check my playlist, and that's a book I wrote. Those are down there too. Okay, let's get to it. All right, now I'm going to talk about. But since I said I watched these 3 things, I want to let you know what I accessed. So where I got the information. And I want to tell you that a lot of times when you have these kinds of cases and documentaries are done, you're never quite sure how much of the full story you're getting, especially from the victims, because a lot of times they don't want to admit how they became victims. And this to me is extremely important. It's the reason for this show. I call this the prey, the victims of these men. Why are they the prey? And if you've ever, you watch any show on, on animals, and you're out there on, you're out there on the plains of Africa, and you see these zebras running or something. There's that one zebra who was a little bit lamer or smaller or weaker or whatever, and that's the one that gets eaten. So the victim in a lot of these cases are prey to a predator. Predators know how to get the prey. If you don't exhibit the right behaviors, in other words, if you're strong, if you're questioning, if you're like, yeah, not having any of that, you're not going to become prey. But there are people out there who do become prey, both male and female, because they have some need that the predator sees. Now, before you all start saying, oh my God, you're blaming the victim again. I get this accusation a lot. The reason I discuss this is because I want to help people not become prey. And if you're unwilling to speak the truth about how people become prey, then they keep becoming prey. And I would like to see less prey out there. I mean, because it's devastating to the people who do get involved with these people, has horrible consequences on their lives, on them and their children. That's one of the things people don't seem to think about. Oh, that poor woman. Well, what about that poor woman's children? Because that might be the father of those children. So it's such an unhealthy situation that I want to point out to people how you become prey. So if you're out on the African plains, and you're a weak animal, you will become prey. If you do something stupid, like, oh, the herd's going over here, but I'm thinking that tree looks really nice, and you go off by yourself over to that tree, you become prey. Because that predator's out there going, what's that idiot doing over there? Now there's no crowd around that idiot, so I'm going to go get it. So that's the way a predator thinks. No, I'm not saying victims are idiots. I'm just saying that's the way the predator thinks. And people do not want to understand how a predator thinks. A predator does not think kindly about his victims. A predator thinks his victims are fools, are morons. And if you don't want to be considered a fool, a moron, or whatever else, don't hook up with a predator, because that's exactly what they think of you. They're laughing. They're laughing at you while they are abusing you. So that's, so sometimes the person is weak. Sometimes the person makes a stupid choice of going off into some area of life they shouldn't. And I'm going to point this out a lot with House of Hammer, because there's a whole thing on the community, BDSM, bondage, and how it's just some cool thing. No, it's not. And I will speak on that very strongly. I will. Because that's that corner of the world you go off into, and you're going to pay the price. Now, yeah. And I will say this right up front. If you're going to come here and say, oh, it's just it's nothing wrong with it, it's consensual, blah, blah, go away. Just go away. I'm going to discuss this very heavily because it pisses me off. So I'm going to discuss that. What happens behind closed doors between two adults is up to them, but I'm not going to necessarily praise the behaviors behind those closed doors, because a lot of times it's very abusive behavior. And one person is taking advantage, a psychopath is taking advantage of an emotionally disturbed human being. And I don't think that's okay. So I'm not on board with that. But that's how you become prey, because you go off into this corner and say, oh, this could be cool. And then you're gotten. So I want people, women and men, not to become prey, just like I don't want children to become prey. And if you're a mother or father who is involved with somebody who is psychopathic and dangerous, your children are going to become prey as well. So that was my opening speech, unintended. And I'm going to check your comments. There's like 7,000 of them. Oh my God. And then I want to mention what I watched to get into this whole thing. All right. So let's not go to the Bible Belt stuff. I get accused many times of being very old-fashioned, shall we say. I am hitting 70, so I'm supposedly old-fashioned. That is not the issue. I have spent my time in Hollywood, on television, all that stuff. I'm not old fashioned, but I am what I believe is sensible. Okay. And I will stand by that. I don't think it's an age thing. Uh, but I do think we see, I'm going to get into the whole thing later. So I'll get into that later. Anyway. So, I know, by the way, control yourselves in the chat room. Although I love you. Hi, Caitlin, you're here too. Um, um, he's just asking geographical questions. Let's not go political. No, absolutely. This is not a political channel. Please do not go political. Please do not go to segments of the United States. Don't do it. Don't do it, because it just makes people unhappy. Yeah. Now, if you're talking about geography, no. You're talking about geography, it's like, oh, I just love the Blue Ridge Mountains. I love the beaches of Florida. That's geography. Oh, did you ask about the weather in the U.S.? Oh, it sucks in Maryland. Okay, let me tell you what I saw before I'm getting off on all this tangent shit here. All right, so what I saw, and I'll tell you what I recommend. So I looked at a bunch of stuff. I ended up, as I said, I first ended up at Toxic. And this is a series. It's by Armie Hammer's ex-wife. Okay, it's the ex-wife, and I just want to pull it up so I can tell you what the series is. Here we go. Okay, it is Elizabeth Chambers. What she's doing in this series is she's bringing different cases where a toxic relationship has ended up in disaster. So I'm going to do the first one in the series. But she is the ex-wife of Armie Hammer, and I'm going to talk about her a little bit later. But I did see her on this show, Toxic Relationships, my interview with Elizabeth Chambers, and she's now that the show Toxic's come out, this is interview with her, and I found it disturbing. And if any of you see this, let me know what you think. I do not have confidence in Elizabeth Chambers' claims and her presentation. I find her very I don't trust what she says. I think she's hiding a lot. She has never, when she got divorced and all the heck came out about Armie Hammer and all the women who said that he was into very kinky sex and very abusive sex and all kinds of perverted crap, she's like, not so much, not really. And we have the best relationship now that we're divorced, and he's a best father. I'm like, if he's the best father, you're full of it. A best father is not a guy who cheats on the mother, and is not a guy who puts out a whole bunch of stuff on very, very, people call it kinky. I call it perverted sexual ideas and things that are despicable. Because I wouldn't, if I were growing up and that was going to be my daddy, when I was old enough to understand, I would be horrified. So I have a problem with Elizabeth Chambers. I think she's manipulative, shall I say? Just saying. So the show, a lot of people say, well, she keeps talking about her toxic relationship, but she never actually says what the toxic relationship is. So, hey, if you're going to be 10 years with a guy who ends up being basically tossed out of Hollywood because what everybody's saying about him, you could be a little more forthcoming, but you just keep skirting around it and saying, oh, and me and my toxic relationship. I'm sorry, not a fan. But she has a show. I'm going to do the first show. All right. Then because of this, and she was married to Hammer, I watched House of Hammer. Now, House of Hammer, this House of Hammer. Whoops, sorry. House of Hammer. It's a 3-part series. I watched it on Max. It's all about Armie, his I'm trying to figure it out now. His father, then I think it's his not his grandfather, but his great-grandfather, is Armand Hammer. Armand Hammer was one of the richest men ever to exist, and owned Occidental Oil, and was hobnobbing with the presidents and the royalty of England, and very powerful man, to the point where they asked him, why don't you run for president? He goes, because I wouldn't have as much power as I do now. Fascinating series as far as the Armand Hammer goes. Armand Hammer being the original, the biggest guy in the Armand family. And then the decades below him, where each one of the children were born, and he ends up being, well, somehow when it gets down to him, I hate to say it, dude, but you're just an actor. Because his I'm having trouble with this. Great-grandfather was one of the richest people in the world. Incredibly powerful. It's a fascinating series. In the series, you will run into a woman, and her name is, here she is, Cassie Hammer. I'm sorry, Casey Hammer. Casey Hammer is the aunt of Artie Hammer, and she was the sister of his father. Yeah, his father. And she kind of, some people think she's just a bitter person, didn't get enough of the inheritance, so therefore she's trashing the whole Hammer family. But it is very interesting, and it shows a level of power and control. The men in the family had such an amazing amount of power, control, and money. And by the time it got down to him, he's an actor, you know. And I'm going to say this about him: damn handsome dude. I mean, you know, he was a popular actor because he was so incredibly handsome. He really was. And I'm trying to find that one picture I had of him. I forgot to put it up there. Anyway, handsome guy. Super handsome. And so was his dad, was handsome. He became an actor because, you know, sometimes when you go down 4 generations, you don't quite have the power that your ancestors had. But he was handsome and had relative money and power. So he went into Hollywood, got into Hollywood where other people couldn't, and he became a star. But he, according to the House of Hammer, he brought with him a lot of the psychology of the men of the House of Hammer, which his aunt says is psychopathic, massive power and control issues, and very, very much into abusive women or ignoring of women. In other words, women didn't matter except as play toys. So it's a fascinating show. 3-part series. So this is a series. I only watched one. This is a 3-part series. I watched all of it. Now, this is a book that Victoria Cilliers wrote. I did not get a chance to read it, but I watched 2 documentaries on this case. The 2 documentaries, one you can see for free on YouTube, and that is Parachute Murder Plot. Okay, that's 45 minutes or 46 minutes, and basic information. But I actually liked the this version, the Fall Skydive Murder Plot. I saw that on Channel 4. It's a 3-part series, which the other one you see on YouTube basically just stole stuff from, or had an agreement to cut things from it. I thought it was pretty much the same thing, except that the Channel 4 went longer. And first I thought, do I want to waste my time when I can just watch this 45 minutes? But I did, and what I did was, because Channel 4 has massive advertising, every time they went to an advertisement, I went to YouTube and watched part of the other video, so that I put it in on all the advertisements, so I could at least, that 3 hours of my life included actually both of those. I liked it very much because they really went into a lot of thinking, and I appreciated that, and how the different women who were involved viewed everything that happened. So I really did like that. So that's what I watched. Okay, so I always want to let people know, so you can go watch those things as well, and so you know that I actually did some research. All right, so I'm going to talk about these 3 cases. We've got Armie Hammer, We got, I don't know. Let me look at his name. Forgot. So this is the first show of Toxic, and this is the parachute case. Okay, so these are the three lovely couples. Now, mind you, they were together 10 years, and he had coupling with a whole bunch of other women, which is the big issue here. Actually, it's the big issue with all of them. And I want to point this out. All of these men are cheaters. All of these men had no interest in being with one woman. All of these men cheated with every woman they were ever with, repeatedly. And to sometimes an extent which you're like, what the heck, you know? And also, I want to point out, in my opinion, they're all freaking perverts. I mean, I'm so tired of it. He's just kinky. No, they're freaking perverts. All right. Every one of these men did not have an appreciation for what I call, quote, normal sex. What do I mean by that? In theory, the idea should be that you meet somebody, that you're attracted to them, you get in a relationship with them, and the two of you make love. You remember that thing called make love? It seems to have gone by the wayside. Make love. In other words, you're attracted to them, they're attracted to you, and what you both want to do is please the other person. Not in a sick, kinky way, in a way that just is lovely. They want each part of the partnership wants to hear the other person be happy. Hear them, see them, feel them, whatever, you know. Okay. So in other words, so that when both are finished with this experience, you go, wasn't that fantastic? And a lot of times the ideal would be that love would be involved, that you would be romantic for the person, you'd be so in love with them. And because you're in love with them, you want to treat them beautifully. You want to make them happy. But you don't want to have to make them happy in a perverted way. And if it gets to that point, or you don't have to have your partner make you happy in a perverted way. In other words, there's ways to make love, which are perfectly fine. But if you have to tie your woman up and whip her and make her crawl along the floor and say, yes, master, I'm going to say you're a freaking psychopath. And I'm tired of this being, that's just a way to have fun with sex. No, you're a freaking psychopath. And the woman who's doing it is psychologically disturbed. And you are abusing a psychologically disturbed woman. And I will point out that the majority of people who are involved in this kind of thing, the man is the dominant, the woman is submissive. And there's a reason for that. And there are times when you have gay couples. So you have two men who the one is submissive, one's dominant, same thing for females. And you sometimes have that weird dude who wants to be submissive to the female. That does happen. But and the major part of it is male dominating female. That is the way it is. And I don't care what anybody else says. That is the truth. So it's males who want massive power and control over and get that through sexual acts. And the female wanting to please that guy for whatever reasons, because she's so desperate to be with him, she will do those things for him because she thinks somehow that means he'll stay with her, that he will love her. And that is a psychological problem that I see here. All right. So these are the three couples. Who should I start with? Because I think I'm going to start with, because I'm going to get into the whole, I have this book. I want to show you the story of you see my condition of this book. When I was studying profiling, criminal profiling, and psychopathology, I did study a lot of things that were had to do with sadism and stuff like that. And this is a famous book. It's by Pauline. Isn't it interesting? Now I can't remember if she was a real Pauline or somebody used a fake name. But anyway, The Ironic Fable of Unfreedom, a mystic document that transcends the pornographic and even the erotic. What lifts this fascinating book above mere perversity is this movement toward transcendence of the self through a gift of self. That the gift is so horrifying outraging cherished beliefs in the sanctity of the body and personal freedom is precisely the tale's source of effectiveness. To give the body, to allow it to be ravaged, exploited, and totally possessed can be an act of consequence if it is done with love for the sake of love. I want to throw up. This book basically is one of the most disgusting things I've ever read. And it is about women being humiliated, abused, tortured, all because they're like, oh, I like this. I want you to be happy. If it takes all that to make your man happy, you need a new man. That's a psychopath. You don't need to make a psychopath happy. You need to find a man who treasures you, treats you well, and would never do any of these things to you. So, but we see this to be a problem with all of these men. Okay, I think I'm going to start with the parachute then. All right. Okay. All right. One of the things I want to point out is how people become victims, how they become prey, what happens there. And this is I think the least annoying of the three, in a sense that she got in a real relationship. She got in a 4-month relationship and should have known better. And we're going to talk not so much about her, Elizabeth Chambers, but all the women who hooked up with him right away with weird sexual stuff happening instantly. And why did they do this? And they were beautiful, smart women who you would think, what the hell? And let me say something just right up front. Well, I'm not sure about this. I'll get to that. I'll get to that in a bit. All right. So this case, her name is Victoria. She had met him, Emile, at an army base in Wiltshire. Am I saying that right? Wiltshire. In 2009. So this is in England. He's from South Africa, by the way. He told her he had 2 children from his first marriage, but he did not mention another 2 children he had fathered with a girlfriend. Okay, so here we have a problem right away. The guy already has 4 kids. 2 he's mentioned, 2 he's not mentioned. Of course, she doesn't. How is she going to know about the ones he's not mentioned? Because the ones he's not mentioned are in South Africa. I don't know whether she ever investigated what happened with the actual marriage with the other kids, because this is one of the things I say about documentaries, even books. A lot of things are left out. So you're like, did she know or didn't she know? If she knew, she's part of the problem. And this is one of the things I think that victims, prey, don't want to admit, that they are often part of the problem. Because if they had some sense of, I have to take care of myself. I have to take care of my future children. I can't hook up with somebody I can't trust and don't know what this true story is about. I don't know what happened here. She fell for him, even though he had been married with 2 kids, and I don't know where they were. I can't even find anything about them. But I did find, but the partner with the 2 kids does show up, and she's funny, and I like her. All right. So Victoria and Emile married in South Africa, but he was a serial womanizer, indulging in casual sex with other women and long-term affairs, including with his first wife. So maybe what? Okay, so she is marrying him, but he's still hooking up with her first wife and a few other women. Okay, I don't know how much she knew. I don't. So then what happens is, I want to point the time frame out. Okay, that they met in 2009. Wait a minute, I thought I had a thing here on when they got married. They met in 2009. What? I think it was like 2 years. Remember how I say you should wait 2 years to get married? And I think she did. So I was at least impressed by that. She didn't rush in, but she was taken by him. I mean, just in the sense of he love bombed her. And I want to point out about love bombing, because not the wife, but the partner with a couple kids said that he love bombed the living hell out of her. And let me show you she was talking about this. She says, here's a picture. Oh my God, he made me this dinner and he put out the candles out on the table. And he's like the guy you've always dreamed of. Now, psychopaths, one of the things they do is, here's how it works. They They decide, okay, I'm going to invite a woman over for dinner. And they bring the woman over for dinner and they serve her peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. It does not go well. She says, what kind of crap is this? I least expected candles and some pasta. The next woman he brings over, there are candles and pasta. So a psychopath learns, but not for the same reason the rest of us learn. He is looking for how to play act the part to get what he wants. So it's not like he's like some guy who really like can cook and he's like invites me for dinner and my God, he actually can make, he knows how to make pasta, man. I mean, it's not Chef Boyardee. I mean, the guy just knows how to do it, and it's delicious. And I do love a candlelight, and maybe put on some opera music. That's grand. And it could be a real guy, but a psychopath will simply take what he has heard and then use it for the next person. And then if the next person, and let's say the next person says, oh, I really loved your, oh, it's so nice to have candlelight and pasta, but, could you make your own pasta and not have it frozen? The third woman will have the candlelight and the unfrozen pasta, and he will adapt his methodologies, not because they're from his heart, but because he's learning to play act. And the more he's with more women, the more he learns to play act. So when by the time she came along, he probably had some pretty good methodologies. And she's like, oh my God, he says all the right things. He does all the right things. Probably better than a non-psychopath. I mean, that's gorgeous. Look at that. The guy kneels and holds her hand. That didn't happen at my wedding. I mean, how romantic. I didn't get that because my ex-husband, although he's an ex, was not a psychopath, but he had no clue on what this kind of thing would be the thing to do. He didn't know how to play the game and to fake all the stuff. He didn't have any idea of that. And so, if you're a real person, you just do what you know is okay. Now, I'm not saying you don't learn along the way that maybe that was inappropriate or maybe I could have had a better date. I'm not saying that non-psychopaths can't improve, their action. If you want to impress somebody, you can improve how you behave. But psychopaths are specifically good at learning the new script. So it's not so much that they're just improving along the way. They are specifically looking for, if that didn't work, what's the next thing that'll work? What's the next thing that'll work? So she hooks up with him. She actually stayed around him for a couple of years. And then it seems that like 6 months in after so it's like 2 years before she married him. I don't know what she knew about the other, like 4 kids, do your due diligence. Again, I'm talking about prey. If you aren't willing to find out what the predator might have been up to, you should. You should know the background of the predator well enough before you hook up with him. Make sure you know who he is or who she is. So anyway, I think she was like around him for a couple of years, and so that's pretty cool. She got married to him, but she didn't follow my second rule, which is wait 2 years before you have a kid. So she got pregnant quite quickly, and 6 months into the pregnancy, he's already cheating on her and doing all kinds of crap. So he also, while he was doing that, by the way, he was going to sex clubs. Here's one of them. That's fun. And he enjoyed that. Well, anyway, yeah, that's what he was doing, along with all the other women he was cheating on her with. And then he goes off to Australia and he just disappears for a really freaking long time. And again, it's like, oh, don't you wonder why your husband, who you're fairly newly married to, is off in Australia and paying you no mind? Well, it's because he's got a new girlfriend out there. And so he ended up he had money problems. He had a new girlfriend, and he was tired of her. So, by the way, I just want to show you a picture of him with the partner's kids. Where's his partner? Because I thought it was this. Oh yeah, see now. By the way, so this looks like a guy who's fun. He was supposedly a good father. That he was involved with the kids. And again, this is this play acting. It isn't necessarily that he really gives a crap, because in the long run, he didn't give a crap. And so this woman, Nicole Shepard, that was the former partner, not the wife, the partner with the 2 kids. What happened was, get this one, she's in South Africa with him and the 2 kids. He goes off to England. She gets a call from his mother that says, oh, by the way, he got married. She's like, what? So he got married to somebody else, well, her, while he was off there. So, and later on, when she's asked, what do you think he's a psychopath? She's like, I think he's every path, a psychopath, a sociopath, a pathological liar. I liked her for that. I'd appreciate that. But now he's married to her and he's getting bored with her. And psychopaths do get bored. And that's one of the reasons they either get angry and frustrated with the person they're with. And both of these shows on this case, I particularly like the female detective. And she did say, I want to read it to you, because I'd appreciate her, because she says what I would have said. She said, hold on a second, I got to find it. And I don't know if she got this from a psychiatrist or not, but this is what I always say. I always say, to a psychopath, you're either useful or you're in the way. And this is what was said in the documentary. Once they've outlived their usefulness, then they move on. And if someone gets in their way, he would get rid of them. So she was getting in his way. He was now going to sex clubs. He had a new girlfriend. He was tired of this is like, how many kids later? I don't know, 7 kids now. I don't know what he's just tired of the whole domestic freaking routine. And now he wants freedom, like Scott Peterson. And so he decides maybe she should just go away. And he needs money too. And it happens to be that she's got a good insurance policy. So if he gets rid of her, he gets the money and gets rid of her at the same time. What a deal. So what does he do? Well, the whole thing is that, let me see, I'll read it from here. He then devised a plot to kill her and pocket the £120,000 life insurance policy and start a new life with his secret girlfriend, Stephanie, who probably is, I'm not going to give her last name because she's probably embarrassed as hell by now. So 1 week before this parachute accident, she noticed a gas leak in the house that would have proved fatal. And she texts him. Where the heck is her text to him? Hold on a second. She texts him. Is this it? Oh, that's not. Oh, that's not it. Sorry, hold on. Where was the text to him? I can't find it. Okay, can't find it. She texts him and says, "Hey, is there something going on with the the gas here?" He goes, "I don't know. Why don't you try to turn on the stove and see if it works?" This was 1 week before her parachutes fell. So he tried to kill her, very clearly tried to kill her, and the children. Didn't matter. I think he was trying to kill her, but collateral damage, a couple kids, whatever. So then it doesn't work. So a week later, he's at the parachute place. Now they used to parachute together. That was one thing she was attracted to him. They had something in common. They did parachute together and have fun time. And so they were over at the parachute club and stuff, and they got the parachutes were put together. He had given her a present, you see. He paid for this special outing for her because she had her second child. She was nursing. She was tired, and she was like, you got your kid, your baby now. And he's like, look, I'll give you a break. Why don't you do your skydiving? Because she loves skydiving. So she goes over there, and at some point he goes into the bathroom with a 2-year-old, and he stays there for about 5 to 10 minutes, which is the time that the prosecution felt that he damaged both of her regular chute and the backup. And then she goes to the plane, and she jumps out, and nothing opens, and she plummets straight to the earth. Fascinating about both the main chute and the reserve failed, but using her expertise honed by 25,000 jumps, she inflated enough of the second canopy to slow her descent, which I did not know until I read this article. She attributed her survival to, quote, not weighing very much. If I do some jumping out of planes in the future, I guess I need to lose a few pounds. She weighed around 8 stone. This is where she got really lucky, and that she landed in a recently plowed field that meant piles of soil that were fluffed up cushioned her fall. It's just amazing. Now, mind you, she was pretty messed up. What happened to her? I mean, there tons of shit were broken. She was home. She was home in body braces, and she had, she was a mess. But she didn't die, and that was unfortunate for her husband. And so then he tried to pretend, of course, nothing happened. And the upshot of this is that upshot. I've lost my English ability. Shot, I think, is that she testified in his behalf at his first trial, and actually not so much against him at the second trial either. First trial, she comes in and says he didn't do it. I was the one who messed up the parachutes, and the prosecution was like floored. They're like, "What in the?" And it was a hung jury. I went back for a second trial, and this time they had done a lot of research, and they were able to put together the gas leak issues and all the other things he did. And the biggest one, I think, that they came up with, which was what finally got him convicted, was that the evening before the parachute issue, he looked up on he Googled wet nursing. Now, she had been breastfeeding the kid, and he looked up the night before wet nursing. Now, why, if your wife was a successful breastfeeding mom, would you look up wet nursing? Except that she wasn't going to be around the next day. And he tried to claim that he looked that up after the accident, because then she was, under medication and stuff. But it was a lie, and they caught him in it. And so that was one of the things that really got him, along with all of his texts, which were hundreds and hundreds of texts, sexual texts, the girlfriend thing. He told the girlfriend he's going to be free pretty soon. I mean, finally, he got convicted, and he's still in prison. Thank God. Doesn't need to be out there. But she couldn't accept that this man that she had decided was her true love, the father of her children, the man and all the love bombing he did toward her, she couldn't give it up. And it's really a sad thing what she says. She says that, and I have to appreciate that. And here she is. This is in the show. Her name is Victoria Cilliers. She's talking about how she wanted back what she had, because during the love bombing portion, she got, like a drug, something that she hadn't had before. Somebody who appeared to adore the living heck out of her, who thought she was the most wonderful woman in the world, and he played her for that. And so it's like a drug, because you get something is not normal. I mean, except under real there are real circumstances where it is a true thing, but she had never experienced that. Now she is experiencing something that was her dream. The prince had come, and she didn't want to let it go. And so even when there was evidence out there, she went into massive denial, saying, "No, if I just don't testify against him, he will come home, and we will regain what we had. We will be the couple we were." That's massive denial, in spite of everything that she actually knew. And it took them the second trial. They managed to get so much information against him that he was convicted. And they knew she was going to testify in a way that wasn't positive. They were shocked the first time. The second time. But now she does admit, yes, he did do it. But it took her a very long time to give up the dream that she had. So of the women that I'm going to be talking about, she became a victim. She was hitting 30s, the old 30 problem, where you haven't had the chance to have that kind of feeling in your life, to have somebody fall in love with you like that. It's wonderful. And, I can see why somebody wouldn't want to give that up. So I think she blinded herself to everything else about him, and came up with excuses for him over and over and over again, because she finally had what she'd always dreamed of, except it was just a nightmare, but she didn't know it. So for her, the reason she became prey was because she was very needy for a relationship where she would be madly loved, and having that chance. He saw that in her. So what a predator will do is he'll look for the women that need that, not the woman who's going to stand up to him and say, whoa, wait a minute, let me check your background. He's looking for the woman. And what I always point out is that he's got so many women he's looking at, it doesn't take a long time to find the one that will be the prey. Just like the lion going after a bunch of zebras, it doesn't take long to see the zebra that's lagging behind, and that's going to be your prey. He's not going to waste his time with the stronger of the herd. He's going to go for the one that is needy. She was needy. She wanted something. She really, really wanted it. And she was willing to give up a lot to get that. But, I feel a little bit more sympathetic toward her, because I truly think she was looking for real love, true love. And I think she did have some time, and she didn't marry him right away. So I'll give her credit on that. I just don't know why she didn't know about the other, I don't know why she didn't know about his past and all that. But he probably love bombed her in that. But I think she really did want to have a loving relationship, and she did wait a reasonable amount of time. So I'll give her a little bit of credit. And then to say she went to massive denial because she just didn't want to lose what she had imagined she had gotten. So that's the first one I'm talking about. Now I'm going to go to this one, and then I'm going to the hammer. This one's very short, so the hammer will be longer. I'll check your comments, which are now 247. So, yeah. He was needy as well, but in a different way. Yes, but needy in the desire to have massive power and control, which is the psychopathic trait. And that is the problem. Because of that, she cared about him enough to care. She had empathy toward him. He had zero empathy toward her. That is where you get in trouble with when you hook up with a psychopath, because you could care about them. You think they're caring about you in return. They're not. They're just playing you, because total power and control does not include empathy. Psychopaths have none of that. And that is also true. Caitlin, very good. Psychopaths are never satisfied. That is one of the problems, because they get bored. They get bored after a while, and they want more. And they want more in one way or the other. And we see this sometimes with serial killers who they're married, but they're out there killing women. And then they come home with pizza and sit around with their wives and children. They do that. And I think that may be a little bit of the Armie Hammer thing. I'm not sure, because I don't know how much she's lying about their relationship. It may be that he had my wife is the love of my life relationship, she's the mother of my children thing, but he's bored with that. So he goes out and he gets everything else outside of this relationship. Or she's not telling the truth, and there was a lot of abuse in the relationship. I don't know. Let's see. None of these people are living in reality, says Clarissa. Reality is a difficult thing sometimes. Just to be fair, reality can be difficult when you feel like nobody loves you, and you're not going to ever get married and have kids. You feel like you're just missing something in your life, and you may never get it. The reality is you may never get it. But because you may never get it, doesn't mean maybe you should throw a care to the wind and go for anything in hopes that that'll be it. But a lot of people do. As I say, people get very needy because they want what they don't have. And sometimes it's reasonable wanting, and sometimes it's maybe you need to shift some of your concepts. But neediness will get you in trouble. Reality is boring. Well, that's why people do a lot of drugs. Yeah, that can be true. Reality can be ugly. That is very true. Not everybody has a reality which is satisfying. I'm sorry, click that one. I was listening. Well, everybody can have, and life is like this. There's times in life when your reality sucks, and there's times in life when reality is pretty good. And if it sucks, you got to work hard to figure out how you can improve that reality, because it's still your reality. And that's unfortunate. Let's see. Isn't massive denial? Oh, that's a good question. Where did that go? I just saw that. Isn't massive denial a choice? Oh yeah, there you go, Carla. Isn't massive denial also a choice? Yes. It is. And one of the problems we have when we're talking about people who become victims of somebody, pray for somebody. And that's where I talk about, I am a very straightforward person. I'm not playing this game where I want everybody to like me. So I go, oh my God, it's just, no, they didn't do one thing that caused the problem. No, they did. Because they did deny reality, and massive denial of reality means I want my illusion so much that I'm going to ignore every freaking thing that this person does that disturbs that illusion. At least even if it happens, like let's say on Friday night, husband comes home and beats you and sexually assaults you. On Saturday morning, I'm pretend it didn't happen because I want to stay. I want what I want. What I might want, but it might be my home, might be keeping a family for my children. It might be I don't want to be alone. Whatever it is. And sometimes I really do understand this. So I want to put this out there that if you're in a long-term relationship, it gets harder and harder. And I think that the short-term thing and the long-term thing are very different. When you're in a long-term relationship and you have children, she had built a life. She had a beautiful home. She had a husband and a couple kids. She wanted to keep it. And I was divorced after 25 years, and it was the worst time of my life. Absolutely worst time. My family was destroyed. Now 20 years has passed, now my kids still see their dad. Dad comes to where I'm at. I join in for Thanksgiving. We have dad's there, mom's there. The new wife is now there. And the third new wife, I happen to like her. I told my ex, I want to keep this one because we kind of like her. Anyway, but now we get together, but it's still not the same as it would have been. So when we were getting divorced, it ripped apart my life. Because we had this beautiful home. We had 3 children. I homeschooled all my kids. And this is where it ended up. And I didn't want it to go there. Was I willing to try to hang on to what I wanted? Yes, I was. I fought to hang on to what I had. I'm not going to get into that because I'm not doing a reality show here. And I'm not making enough money for it. No, I'm just kidding. But I was unrealistic. It was just I was trying to keep what meant the most to me, which is my family. So sometimes people will put up with stuff that they shouldn't because they want to keep what they have. Now, so for her, I have a little more sympathy than for somebody who is just hooking up with somebody on the internet and having weird sex crap with them. I'm like, now I don't know with Elizabeth Chambers after 10 years of marriage. I don't know what happened behind those doors. She's trying to keep her children protected from everything that came out about him, which she claims is probably maybe not true. And all of his fans say is completely, people are just trying to ruin him. But her children, she does now. She says they have a great relationship, and better than ever. And I don't believe her, but I believe she's trying to live in a fantasy because she wants to protect her children and also protect herself. Because when all that stuff came out about the other women saying what he was doing with them, it's got to be massively humiliating for her. So I understand that people sometimes do things just to survive. They do. But if you don't want to get into those situations to begin with, this is what you want to make sure you see early on. There were issues here that she overlooked because she wanted this man. I don't think it's as bad as some of the others, but I don't have all the details. She just may not have known about the other partner with the 2 kids. She may have known about the first marriage, but where were those kids? What was the relationship he had with the ex-wife? What was going on there? When did she start realizing he was cheating on her and all this other stuff? When did that sink in? How much was she willing to put up with just to keep her marriage? Well, there's always 2 sides to a story. I'm just going to say he might have a different side. Anyway. Out of curiosity, Liz says, are women who grew up without a father more inclined to seek out bad men for dating? There's a million psychiatric researches on these kind of things. Was the father you had two this? Was the father you had two missing? Was the father you had, what was it? Was he too abusive? If you have an abusive father who is sexually assaulting you or physical abusing you, do you then find men that way, or is it the lack of man? And you can go on forever with that. I don't actually know. You would have to. I don't know that there's a real good answer for that, but I do think everybody just wants to have a companion in life. They want to have somebody who, people say soulmate, but that would be really nice. But at least a good companion, a person who cared about you, you care about them, and you raise your family together, and you get to go through life with somebody who's there for you. I think that's fantastic if you can get that. All right, let's go to this one. This is, all right, this one, this is the first case. This is the first case shown on the show, Toxic. All right, so she says, all right, her name is, all right, let me see. Well, her name is Kelly. What the heck? Kelly, what the heck is her first name? Sutliff. I'm sorry, Kelly Sutliff. She's in her 30s. She is a psychologist, which is quite interesting. I did find this kind of this thing where supposedly where she was working booted her because she made a bad choice as far as working at the school. I don't know if that's the same Kelly Sutliff, but considering she was in New Jersey and so was that case, I'm wondering whether she she's just not very smart about her choices. So anyway, she was getting to 30 and she had money. She had a good job. She meets him on Bumble. Okay. Right there, when you're going to meet somebody on an app, start out being suspicious. Now, it may be that's the only way you can meet people anymore today. I mean, maybe that's it. So you have to try to meet this right person who just might click. And oh my God, I finally, somebody out there is desperate to find somebody they want. I'm desperate to find somebody I want. We match really well. There are people who are successful, but there's about 90% of those people on there are scumbags too. So be careful of all the scumbags. Well, so she meets this guy on Bumble. She says this: I had the perfect husband up until the day he tried to kill me. I think there were some red flags that started to display themselves after we got married. Now, mind you, she met him on Bumble, and within 3 months, he moved into her house. That's your first red flag. Now, I suppose he was in the military and he was supposedly doing some kind of job. I can't seem to get real good information how good it was, but I'm wondering why the hell after 3 months he's in her house. Because usually when men move into a woman's house after 3 months, it's because they got financial problems. Because if you have a decent place to live, how the hell you just move out of? I have my house here. I love my house. You think I'm going to dump my house in 3 months, move into some other guy's house, give up what I have to go with some guy I hardly know? So when you do that, I question, and I can't find any information, that there's some issue there with finances. So he's like, hey, I found a sucker. I'm going to move into her house. He moves in like 3 months later. They marry 1 month after that. She only known him for 4 months, some say 5 months, but 4/5 months, she married him. A guy she met on Bumble. And you know what? She said he love bombed her. Of course, he's doing the psychopathic thing. I'm going to just tell her she's beautiful. She's wonderful. I can't believe I met you. Blah, blah, blah. All right. So she met him in August of 2018. She described him as being very attractive. Whatever. He seemed like a guy who was really in touch with his feelings and could understand other people's emotions as well. He described himself as an empath. You're a psychologist. What the hell? Do you not understand psychology? I mean, you suck. I'm sorry, you suck as a psychologist. And now she's got this thing about abuse. She's got this whole new program she's doing to help women. But I'm like, you in 4 months decided to marry a guy who you met on Bumble and called himself an empath? He seemed like a guy who was really in touch with his feelings and could understand. Okay, so other people. So sorry, I read that. Little did she know she would soon end up running for her life. Well, little did she know anything about this guy. So why the hell are you having him move into your house and marry you in 4 months? Kelly, now 43 and a psychotherapist, she was already in psychology before. She had the training. She just didn't use any of it in her brain. She had her first date with Chris, who was 3 years her junior, in Morristown, New Jersey, a week after they matched online. He told her he was a U.S. Army veteran and had since worked as a government contractor. Being told something is not the same as knowing something, so get that one straight. The couple then embarked on a whirlwind romance, which included sex, just to let you know. Because as I point out all the time, when a guy meets you online, if you don't have sex on the first date, you don't get a second date. If you say no on the first date, you say, no, I'm waiting till I get in a decent relationship, that guy will be off with some other bumblebee. So Chris told Kelly he loved her after a few weeks of dating. Oh my God. You have studied psychology. You know when a person tells you they love you within 3 weeks, they're probably a psychopath. She recalled, my gut was saying, maybe something isn't right here. Yeah, I think. But I rationalized it because I really wanted this man to be who I think he thought he was. Because she was getting older and she wanted to have somebody. And I do understand that. I mean, I do. Because you can be lonely. It's loneliness, I think, is a massive problem for people, especially when you're not in your family or any of that. Loneliness is a biggie. It really is. And I think loneliness can cloud your mind to a really, really big point. And everybody, here's something people always say to you, which I really dislike. You deserve to be loved. You deserve to have somebody who loves you. First of all, you don't deserve anything in life. You're lucky if you just get whatever you get. You don't necessarily deserve it. And secondly, just because you deserve something doesn't mean you're ever going to get it. I've been divorced 20 years now. My ex is on the third wife. I haven't been in a relationship. And people could say, well, it's because you don't open your heart because you're still hanging on. No, it's because I haven't met anybody that I want to be with. It's that simple. If you're out there and you really want to be with me, give me a call and tell me you love me in 3 weeks. Anyway, but would I love to be in love? Yes. Would I love to have a companion? Yes. I'm hitting 70. Shit, I'm running out of time. I'll take it for a couple of years before you die. I'm good with it. But I also don't want to throw myself out there and be abused and live in an illusion just because I want somebody. But I do understand the issue of loneliness and wanting to have somebody in your life. So all of these women, I get it. Well, actually, this whole bunch of women who hooked up with Armie Hammer, whole different thing. I'm going to get into that whole thing. But I kind of get where she's at. She was in her 30s. She's like, never find anybody. This guy was in love with her. Okay. So in November, he moved in with her. Completely won over by his charm because he's a love bomber. Kelly says she got swept up in their wedding plans and were booked for an intimate ceremony in Maui in January of 2019. I kind of wonder who paid for that. They discussed having children. Chris already had an 8-year-old son from a previous relationship, but they decided against it so they could travel the world together as a twosome. On whose money I want to know. I really want to know how much money this dude had because I'm suspicious that he didn't have as much as she did because he moved into her house. So yeah. They discussed, okay, so Kelly said, I truly thought he was going to be my husband for the rest of my life. It's 4 months, figure it out. Soon after their honeymoon, she fell ill. Her skin broke out in hives and her general health deteriorated quickly. She thought she had a virus. And at one point, her legs gave way. She collapsed. Anyway, she's having all these issues. Chris was the doting husband, going food shopping, cooking meals, and making sure she stayed hydrated. She said, and taking care of me, acted like the best husband ever. And he said he was going to make sure that I was going to get better. And then this is interesting. Now, this is from her point of view. I do not know the accuracy of it. Just to point out, because a lot of the problems we have when victims tell a story is that they cannot support it with evidence. That's why the police can't arrest anybody. Now, in this particular case, thank God there was enough evidence to finally put this guy away. This guy, should he be in prison? I wouldn't mind, but I don't think they had enough evidence in spite of what she said was true because we just don't know that it is. And you can't do that in a court of law. So she said he fell asleep next to her, clutching his phone. She took this opportunity to look through his messages, checking Instagram first. Okay, obviously she knew something was wrong with this guy, because I never, ever looked at my husband's phone. I just never thought about it. I wouldn't do that because it was it would break trust. But if she's doing that, she's thinking that guy's a snake in some way. There's something about going on. She found explicit pictures and texts from another woman. But the messages were worse. Chris had told the woman that his wife was a drug addict and an alcoholic whom he no longer loved. Remember I said there's always going to be sex outside of marriage, because that is about power. Once you have sex with your wife, it's the same old, and it's only unless she's really going into some really kinky crap with you, she's getting boring. So you've got to get your new power, your new conquest. And so that's what he was already doing. And lying about his wife, saying she's a piece of crap. And that happens often. You meet a guy who's separated. And what does he say? Oh, I'm separated. Well, you meet him at a bar and he says, well, I'm separated from my wife. And, it's been rough and we're no longer, we're working on the divorce. So you go with him and you go to bed with him and all that crap. And you find out he's still married to her. He's still sleeping with her. It's just a lie. Okay, so she described his behavior as demeaning, and she started questioning who he really was. Yes, because all of these men started treating their wives in a demeaning fashion. Not necessarily her, because I don't think she's telling the truth. He treated every other woman in a demeaning fashion. He treated her in a demeaning fashion. He treated her in a demeaning fashion. Demeaning is part of psychopathy. And no woman should be demeaned, which is why I'm not so thrilled with the little community of, oh, it's okay if he ties you up. No, that's demeaning. It's okay if he wants you to feel pain, if you're willing to, if it's consensual. No, that's demeaning and humiliating and disgusting. Women, stop falling for that crap. I find it, if you're willing to do that, you got psychological issues. Get yourself to a different psychologist. Anyway, she said, I don't know who this man is, because my husband would never do something like that. Yes, he would, because you don't even know this guy. You're only with him for 4 freaking months. Then she said, I don't know who I'm married to. So she confronted him with a copy of the text she had. And then she asked him to leave and go stay with his mom, but he refused, desperate to know if this is the end of their marriage. Then at 6 p.m., his behavior became violent. Returning from spending the afternoon at her sister's house, Kelly walked in to find Chris standing naked, covered in blood, brandishing a military knife. He had cut himself with a knife and yelled abuse into her face. And there is a whole video on the first show which shows this. So she's not lying about that. He's like in front of a mirror naked in front of a mirror, showing himself off with blood on. It happened. All right. He cut himself with a knife and yelled abuse into her face. In a turn of events, he set it out to make it look like Kelly was trying to murder him. Over the next 45 minutes, he wrecked their home, which he did, and physically assaulted Kelly. How much he physically assaulted her, I do not know. There was like a ditch in the wall, like a smush in the wall, like he smashed her head into it, but she didn't have physical damage, which is why when she managed to run out of the house, they didn't have much of a case against him as far as assault on her, because she didn't really show much damage. It does say she does claim that he pinned her down during by her neck and legs and told her she would watch as he destroyed their home before killing her. She tried to call 911 several times, but at each attempt, he wrestled the phone away from her. Once he got hold of the phone and told the operator everything was fine, but the operator didn't believe him and traced the address, dispatching the police. Thank God for that operator. And then she fled. She says, as I stood in the neighbors, she fled the house before returning to save her dog. As I stood in the neighbor's foyer, depending on how you pronounce it, I looked out and saw Chris smearing his blood over the bay window. And then I saw Chris walking toward the basement, because that's where he hid Chester, the dog. Kelly risked her life for the dog and went back to the house while he was still on the rampage. I can't say anything. I don't know. I've got 2 different versions of every word today. I was not going to let that man kill my dog. There was no way in hell he was going to lay a hand on that dog. The dog was everything to me. I've seen a whole lot of women care more about their dogs than their own selves. That's concerning. So then she got, Chester was alive, so she slammed the door shut. She got Chester out of there. She heard Chris screaming, and the police showed up. So he was still covered in blood and muttering incoherently. He was on some kind of rant, how he was in the war, how he killed people. Now, he was in a war. So I don't know if he was now using this as an insanity plea, which wouldn't be surprising for a psychopath. So anyway, she survived. He was taken to Veterans Fair, a hospital, treated for his wounds before being charged with aggravated assault by strangulation, criminal mischief, and possession of a deadly weapon. However, oh, this is interesting. She also claimed she had chilling pictures of him masturbating next to her while she was sleeping. Well, sometimes guys do that. just saying. I don't know that that is considered that unusual. But then it said another video showed him putting something under her nose while she was sprawled on the bed, and she was concerned she was being drugged. And that's, she wakes up and he's on top of her. So, and then she said, "What is he doing?" And so, "Oh, I thought you were awake." But was she being drugged? And she felt off. So she wondered whether she was being drugged. And it turns out that he got his phone back because they couldn't keep it because that was some of the law. And then everything got deleted, supposedly. There was no evidence of either the photos or Kelly being drugged was found. Too much time had passed for medical tests to be carried out to show medication in his system. So eventually what happened was they didn't pursue sexual assault, and he accepted a plea deal. It was sentenced to just 3 years probation on aggravated assault by strangulation charges. And he's out there, and he's got a nice little Facebook account. Yeah, he's dangerous, and he shouldn't be out there, and other women shouldn't be hooking up with him. But I'm sure he'll tell them it was all a big lie, and she's just, she fabricated it all. Oh my God. Let's see. Mike says, loneliness is not feeling love. Being alone is different in that respect. I think a lot is made of that. Because people have this whole thing where they're saying these days, just because you're alone doesn't mean you're lonely. Just like when you say, "Oh, I'm bored." Well, if you're bored, you're boring. No. Sometimes people who are very, very into all kinds of cool things in life can still be bored. Some people who live alone, in spite of the fact they accept living alone, can still be lonely because they just don't have that special person. So I just think, those are things we say to make us, it's kind of like we just toss it off. But I think it's not to be tossed off because it does affect a lot of people very strongly. And they have to be able to deal with it. So if you're bored, it's probably not because you're boring, but because you can't find things to satisfy you to the point where you find yourself energized and interested. And maybe you're just run out of things. You have new things you want to do. Maybe you need a new job, maybe whatever. You can be bored without being boring. And you can also be lonely, even though you handle being alone very well. You can just say, kind of would be nice. Now, how much you take it to the extreme where you're willing to marry this jerk off within 4 months is another matter. And she had the training, but she didn't use any of it. Okay, let me go to House of Hammer. All right, House of Hammer. All right. Now, this is a case of where she was married to him for 10 years. They have a couple kids. And they're both famous. He's obviously really good-looking dude. I mean, his father was really good-looking too. Just a really good-looking guy, which is why he was successful in the movies. Because he's handsome. I've actually, I might have seen some of the movies he's been in, but just don't remember them, and I don't remember him in them. But it killed his career. These what is called sordid fantasies. So Armie Hammer had been in the news recently for all the wrong reasons. The Call Me By Your Name actor, who had become a household name when he starred alongside everyone's favorite soft boy, Timothy Chalamet. I don't even know who that is. In 2017, Romance has been accused of sending graphic sexual messages to multiple women, including ones in which he says he's a cannibal. All right. It all started with an anonymous woman behind the Instagram account House of Effie. So there was a woman called, she had House of Effie. So she was getting divorced from him because he was infidelity she admitted to. So he's in all these movies. He, travels a lot, whatever. And she finds out that he's cheating on her, which is pretty much accurate. And so this woman started putting these things online that said, this is this guy, and this is these are his posts. Let me see. I think this is, Okay. Okay. This is Gloria Allred. She's the one that does all of these Me Too cases, which I don't particularly like her, but I do have something I want to talk about that she says. So, yeah. Anyway, her client was Effie, and she responds to the Armie Hammer's lawyer's statement that the allegations are basically not true. So this Effie person starts putting out these things. She said she was with him. I think this is how it goes. Like 4 years. And there is the problem right there. If the guy is a despicable, creepy dude, what the heck? Anyway, it all started when the anonymous woman behind the Instagram account House of Effie started sharing screenshots of the alleged DMs from the actor for several days, which allegedly showed Hammer's Instagram account sending sexual explicit messages to a number of women he was seeing while still with his estranged wife, Elizabeth Chambers. The woman alleges she was in a consensual affair with Hammer for 4 years while he was married, and that she thought she was the only one until recently when other women started messaging her with the same stories. So this is a sign. Now, he is exhibiting traits of a psychopath. He's cheating on his wife with another woman, and he's cheating on the other woman with other women because he's never satisfied. He wants what he wants. He wants the thrills, and he wants to play his game with each one of them, because when you also pick up a new woman, you get to start over with the cheap thrills. Maybe that the first woman, second woman, third woman have, aren't as thrilled about anymore. So, or they're not as compliant as they used to be. So this additionally, writer Jessica Henriquez, who was seen on a date with Hammer in September, has claimed the disturbing texts are real, writing on Twitter, "If you're still questioning whether or not those Armie Hammer DMs are real," and they are, maybe you should start questioning why we live in a culture willing to give abusers the benefit of the doubt instead of the victims. Okay, so there's another woman coming through. Then it says Hammer's ex-girlfriend, Courtney Vucekovic or something like that. And she's very gorgeous, by the way. Very attractive woman. Let me find her. Where are you? There she is. She is big in the House of Hammer show. She's all through there. Courtney. And she was in a relationship with him as well from June to August 2020. It was at least fairly short. I think he just separated from her right after his divorce announcement. And she told Page Six, while she couldn't confirm whether those specific screenshots were legitimate, they were no surprise. He said to me he wants to break my rib and barbecue and eat it, she told the publication. He says, "I want to take a bite out of you. If I had a little cut on my hand, he'd like to suck it or lick it." That's about as weird as we get. Now, she's on the show, the House of Hammer show, and she's saying that when they first met and they started communicating, he said, "Come on out," and they hooked up and they went on this road trip. I think it was in Arizona, and he went to like a shop to buy ropes because he wanted to tie her up, and that kind of creeped her out. So. But did she run away? No, she stayed in it. Eventually, she supposedly gets tied up by him. And he gets to do some of the things that he loves doing, which is a bondage thing. And it's pretty creepy. Now, let me just show you some of the messages that went out. "I want to bite you and leave a mark," and then have that mark turn into a tattoo. It says Armie Hammer and with his picture. Now, you might say, and many people do, who are fans of Armie Hammer, these are all fake. They're all fake. But interesting enough, House of Hammer has come out and he has not sued anybody. Because if it were me and a whole bunch of people were saying these were my messages, my DMs or my texts, and that I was saying these incredibly horrible things, I would be very upset and I would sue, especially a production company. And he hasn't done it. So there's some more of them. "Brand you, tattoo you, mark you, shave your head, keep your hair with me, cut a piece of your skin off and make you cook it for me. I don't know, you're the most intense and extreme version I've ever had, raping you on the floor with a knife against you. Everything else seems boring. You crying and screaming." And this person says all of them are fake. Really? Why does he complain? He says, "I am 100% a cannibal. I want to eat you. I cut the heart out of a living animal before and I've eaten it while it's still warm. I want to see your brain, your blood, your organs, every part of you." Okay. I would say, Armie Hammer, if that's not true, I would do everything in my power to not have that come out. However, he has admitted he has admitted that he is, quite frankly, I'll just pull this up a second here. Okay. He has admitted he is into BDSM. He does like tying up women with ropes. He's admitted that. He wants to dine with Marquis de Sade, who is the guy who is the big sadism guy. And the kind of stuff that's in this book, I would be pretty surprised if he hasn't read the story of O and wished he could play out every part of it. He likes dominating women in a very degrading, humiliating, and painful way. And on top of that, he's pushed the boundaries even further to what appears to be serial killer ideation, which is, the whole cannibalism stuff. But just the simple fact that the concept of cutting somebody up, doing damage to them, actual damage, whether it's your fantasy or just a fantasy. I'm sorry. I don't have those kind of fantasies. And I don't want to date anybody who has those kind of fantasies. If you have those kind of fantasies, you have serial killer fantasies. That's 100% psychopathic and dangerous. And if I were looking at this guy, even if they were just fantasies he put out there on the internet because he was playing around with the ladies, I would be a police department looking to see where the hell he'd been, make sure there weren't some dead women in the desert, because he did seem to love driving through the desert. I'd be looking to make sure that this handsome, successful actor was not also a serial killer. I'd be checking that out just because his ideations, if those are his ideations, and he's into the Marquis de Sade thing, and he said some of these things, and he says the cannibalism thing is nonsense, but his ideations are very concerning. So if I were a detective, I'd check into it. Not saying he's done any of those things. He may just be in the fantasy stage, but people don't stay in fantasy stages. Let me tell you that. Fantasies usually are something, especially with a person who really is obsessed with them, they want to turn those into realities. Because after a while, they get boring. You say, oh, I'd really like to kiss a girl. And after a while, you really want to kiss a girl. If you're that guy, you're like, okay, I can't wait any longer. I really want to find a girlfriend. I want to kiss somebody. And then I want to have sex. Yeah. So the fact that he's already got his wife, he gets sex all the time, but he is out cheating on her constantly. And he is apparently, from what I can see, and he hasn't sued to say it's not true, he's sending out very, very pretty disgusting messages to these women. Now, the woman who is the Effie woman said she was with him for 4 years. I'm like, I'm sorry. Here's the problem with these women, and I will say this, and if you're one of these women, you need to get some help. You do. Because the minute the guy starts looking for rope in the store, you need to be never around that guy again. Never. And if he starts saying these despicable things to you, raping you on the floor with a knife against you, everything else seems boring. If he actually said that, he doesn't want to make love to you. He doesn't care about you. What he wants to do is do something that is essentially he's dreaming of illegal, immoral kind of things to do to somebody, that he has zero respect for you. He wants to harm you. He wants to watch you suffer. Who does that? Oh, yeah, a psychopath, possibly a serial killer. So why would you go on a second date with him? Why would you respond to his text or his emails or his Instagram? What the hell? Why even responding? What is wrong with you, Ms. Prey? And I'm going to say I know what it is, because these women did respond to him over and over again. They got in relationships with him. They claimed that he tied them all up. They claimed that he did these things, bitch at them, and all this kind of crap. They had crawling floor, all kinds of nasty stuff they claim he did to them. But they kept going back for more. And the reason this case never went to court, because I think it was Effie who claimed that he raped her, is if you're in a relationship with this kind of guy who's doing this kind of stuff to you for 4 years, it's a he said, she said, and pretty much I don't know why to believe anything that you say that wasn't consensual. Now here is Gloria Allred. She says this, okay. She says, if she withdraws her consent and he continues, that's a crime. This is true. So if he says, I want to tie you up, and you say, do not tie me up, and then he throws you to the ground and ties you up, he is now considering that's kidnapping. That is a crime. If you say, I don't want to have anal sex with you, and he throws you over in your stomach and then he sexually assaults you, that's rape. Absolutely. She's correct. She says this: kinky is not against the law. Also correct. His ideations are not against the law. They're disgusting, despicable, and make me not want to ever be near him. And his desire to have kinky sex, BDSM, with women is not against the law as long as it's consensual. If you find somebody who's psychologically disturbed enough, desperate enough, whatever the hell their problem is, to have sex with you and let you do those things to you, let him humiliate you and torture you and all that crap, it is consensual, even if it's, in my opinion, it's just almost like he's assaulting a person that doesn't have their mind in the right place. And that should be, in a sense, illegal, but it's not, because you're adults. And if the person's psychologically disturbed, you can't prove that. And I think all these women who were with him are psychologically disturbed. All of you women need help. I'm just going to say it, because I'm so tired of people pretending, oh, you just wanted to have fun with him, it's just kinky, and you thought it'd be okay. No, why are you even doing that to yourself? If the man doesn't respect you enough to treat you beautifully, what the hell? You think it's okay for him to do these things to you, to call you, and I know they call you names like whore when they're doing stuff like that, slut, whore, the C word. They might spit on you. They might urinate on you, whatever the thing is. That's not respect. That's humiliation. Why would you accept that? Oh, what? Because I wanted to please him and I thought he'd enjoy it? So what? You don't, why would you allow somebody to do that so they can enjoy themselves by harming you, by hurting you, by humiliating you? You need to fix your brain. So anyway, Gloria Orwell says kinky is not against the law, which is true, which is what rape is. That is also true. But the proof, you can't, once you're involved in BDSM to the point where you are alone with this person, you have agreed to do all kinds of other things, then to suddenly pop up and say, oh, after 4 years, oh, by the way, I said no that day and he did it anyway. Get out of here. It's not very provable in a court of law. So he was never charged with any kind of crime. And his wife said he didn't do it and blah, blah, blah. And so now they're best friends and he's still out there. Okay, so yeah. But these women that go for this stuff. And one of the things I wanted to point out is that I think they were like, oh my, I never even really knew much about this. She says, oh, I never knew much about BDSM. I was like, oh, so surprised. Hey, 50 Shades of Grey, it was out way before this. Get out of here that you never read 50 Shades of Grey or watched the stupid movie. Okay, so I want to, before I go to I'm going to go to your comments in just a minute, but I want to read you this thing that I wrote on my blog quite a few years ago. Where the hell is it? Okay, where is it? Why is it missing? Oh, here it is. All right. This is what I wrote. Criminal profiling topic of the day. Fan fiction of 50 Shades of Grey. And the thing was called When Christian Killed Anna. So, Anna, this is what I'm going to point out about why these women are with these men. Because he's an attractive, rich actor, famous actor. Now, this case, he wasn't famous or anything. This was not a BDSM thing. But a lot of women will do stuff for men because they're rich and famous and they want the whole Diddy thing. Why were these women hooking up with Diddy and going to these freak-offs? Because Diddy was famous and he was going to make them famous. And they were going to get all the fancy clothes and shoes and fly around on private jets. They're prostituting themselves. And if they're going to prostitute yourself, well, you get what you get. You're willing to do it. In my opinion, that's consensual. But what you never hear about is these same women that are all hooked up with him, they were quite good-looking women. You know what he wasn't? A Metro bus driver. You know what Christian wasn't in the 50 Shades of Grey? He wasn't a bus driver. Now, mind you, I'm totally pro-bus driver. We have great Metro bus drivers in this area who I'm thrilled they're willing to even take the job because it's gotten very dangerous. You've got a lot of passengers now who assault the driver. It's a tough job to have, and they're looking for people because there's just not enough people who want to take the job. They want They want to work, they want the money, but they're afraid of the job. So all of you Metro bus drivers out there, bless you. Bless you. And would I date you? Sure, because I think you're an honorable, hardworking man. But would I be just jumping into the BDSM thing with you, Mr. Bus Driver? Probably not. And neither would any of these women, because you're not him. You're not him. You don't have a plane. You don't have $1 million, $10 million house. You don't have this fancy office up in you don't have that kind of glamorous life so that the woman is willing to pretty much do any nasty thing for you. She'll go, yeah, I'm not doing that because you're bus driver. But if you're rich, it's another matter. If you're famous, it's another matter. So I wrote this. Here. I wrote this. Again, the name of it is When Christian Killed Anna. Save the life of a young woman. Link this post to any place young women go on the internet who think 50 Shades of Grey is a romance. That the exact type of guy we warn young women to run from is somehow cool, exciting, and will change if you just love and understand him. The kind of man Christian Grey is, a serial sex predator, will get you abused, stalked, and killed. Women every day are filing restraining orders against this kind of controlling, obsessive, sadistic psychopath, and a good many of them find themselves with gas thrown at them and set on fire, disappearing down mine shafts, and shot dead at the courthouse steps. 50 Shades of Grey is one of the most dangerous pieces of fiction to get into the hands of young women that I've ever seen. Make sure they read the story below to get the real ending of 50 Shades of Grey, which would never have made it to a trilogy if it had been anywhere close to the truth. Now I'm going to read this to you. When Christian Killed Anna. Christian gazes down at me from above, my hands tied behind my head, to the bed rail with that gray tie of his, my ankles bound with rope to the side rails at the foot. His expression is unreadable, but as my eyes shift from his face to his chest and then to those jeans of his hanging deliciously off his hips, my inner goddess jumps for joy. Heat rushes down there, and I squirm desperately as I wait for Christian to touch me. Oh, shit, he's so hot. He runs his hands through that slightly tousled hair of his. I'm bored with you, Anna, he says quietly. I'm stunned. How can you be bored with me? I have done everything you wanted, minus a few items I put a line through on the contract. But we've only been together a couple of months, sir. I had thought I was different than the train of other women he had been through. I thought I was special. Christian actually laughs. Special? What would you think I would find so special about you? He admonishes me. You are a mildly attractive, run-of-the-mill college girl with nothing particularly alluring or interesting about you. Tears flood my eyes. But sir, you said I was special, different, that you never had vanilla sex or slept the night with anyone but me. And you believe me, you little fool? He smirks. Why don't you bite your lower lip again? You really think that drives me mad for you, don't you? It doesn't do anything but make me hate you. He reaches out with both hands and grabs my nipples, twisting them cruelly as I yelp with pain. Christian looks at me with disdain. You don't think I've told every one of the girls how adorable they are? Don't you realize I told everyone the same stupid things that I told you? You're all so easy to dupe. He sighs. All of you who think you are going to be the one. You are going to change me. From what? From myself? I like myself just the way I am. He leans in and snickers. Do you know, my dear Anastasia, that I was never abused as a child? Not once. But oh, how easy it was to make you feel sorry for me. My inner goddess curls up into a ball. I feel sweat break out on my forehead. Panic starts to rise in my chest. I look into the eyes of Christian Grey and I see nothing there at all. Nothing. Everything I thought he might have been has vanished. And I realize I have been living in a dream. Reality hits. I am tied up hand and foot, alone with a sadistic psychopath, a snake, a demon. Christian's face appears inches away from mine behind my wall of tears. You know all those things that weren't in the contract? Well, today you get to do them all. He smiles so coldly, so evilly. And I don't think I'll read the rest of it because it's not very pleasant. Yeah, well, and YouTube will definitely ban me if I put the rest of this up here. let's say this, she doesn't survive. That's what these women are playing with. Thinking they have got this. They're so special. They're so special. Psychopaths don't think you're special. They just think you're prey. I'm not sure if I'm too young or too old to listen to this. Pat is into BDSM because she's torturing us right now. I can't even read the rest of it. I mean, that was the mild part of it. Then I wrote the other part, which is, yeah, which like I say, I can't even finish here. But that is reality. That is reality. Planet Steel says, what a video if I just joined. Is Pat reading 50 Shades of Grey? She should do an audiobook. Yeah. That would be the real 50 Shades of Grey. Part 4. Because this is what would happen when Christian kills Anna. Because that's exactly who he is. And all these women who just think, all these young women especially, think, and a lot of some older women, think that the whole 50 Shades of Grey thing was just a bomb. Oh my God, it's so sexy. I'm like, what the hell sexy do you even find in this? The fact that you think it's sexy is concerning to me, that women in this day and age don't have enough respect for themselves to want a man to make love to them, to treat them gently, to make them happy and not humiliate them. It's just unbelievable. So I wrote that, and as a matter of fact, I don't know how well received it was. Stop, please. Oh my God. I'm out. Yeah. Okay. I didn't finish it. If I finished it, you really would have been major more upset. Yeah. My girlfriend correctly calls it 50 Shades of Shite. Well, there you go. That is, he did a strange interview with his mother. This guy is not right in the mind. I'm going to say that. The things he has said are creepy as hell. And I believe that he exhibits traits of psychopathy. And I believe he exhibits traits of a person who has zero respect for women. And it actually shows traits of a serial killer with his ideation, if what the people are putting out there is true. And if he can prove it's not true, then I will say, okay, well, then these women are all a bunch of liars. And there's a whole bunch of them, and they all have to be cleverly making up fake Instagram stuff. I can't absolutely say. It's a documentary, so it could be. I don't trust documentaries, so it could be not so true. But he said enough things which make me think that the chances of it being true are pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah, escape is fantasy, except you can't escape. Yeah, what kind of escapist fantasy is this? I don't know, because there is a movie. If you want escapist fantasy, there is a movie called Wir Zater. I think I've even mentioned this movie before. Let me see if I can just pull up the Wir Zater. And this, if you want an escapist fantasy, this would be it. Okay, I'm going to try to send the picture over to you, or maybe I'll just hold it up because I'm too lazy to send it over. But this is one of the most favorite movies of India because how beautiful it is. And this is Veer. The guy is Veer and she is Zara. And he is Indian and she is Pakistani. He is Hindu and she is Muslim. And there is a scene at the train station where he has spent a day with her and he's fallen in love with her and she's fallen in love with him, but she's going back to marry the guy she's being forced to marry in Pakistan. And she's in the train station and he says to her, she's going back. And he says, if you ever need me, know that across the border is a man who loves you and I will come for you. and it's very beautiful. And she goes back to Pakistan, and at some point back there, her mother, she's talking with her mother about marriage, and the mother says, "Oh, guys are just guys. So you're going to marry, just like I married your dad, you're going to marry this guy, and that's the way it is because they don't really love you." And she says, "I know a man across the border who really does love me." And those, paraphrasing, and it is one of the most beautiful movies ever. And he goes to save her, and it's just absolutely stunningly beautiful. The music, the clothing, the romance. I mean, it's beautiful, and what he's willing to do for the woman he loves, which is he ends up in prison for like 20 years or something. I mean, it's horror. It's absolutely a stunning movie. Wiedersehen. So if you want to have a fantasy, for God's sakes, have a fantasy. This is the name of the movie. Have a fantasy like that, Wiedersehen. And of course, it can ruin you forever because you want a guy that's just like Veer. You're never going to find him. But at least it's a beautiful fantasy. Not a fantasy of humiliation and being hurt and submitting in a way that is no way any woman or man should submit. Let's see. Clarissa says, Pat, the podcast with his mom is on the YouTube channel Armie Hammer. It's an unfiltered conversation. Interesting. I'll check it out. Oh, The Namesake. That's a very nice movie. Namesake is very nice. I like The Namesake. Yes. Now Namesake is not actually Bollywood. It's actually Lollywood, which is London based. But a very nice movie and very well done. A beautiful book as well. I'm a big Bollywood fan. I'm a big Shah Rukh Khan fan, who was the guy in that movie. But I've always loved a good romantic movie. Maybe that's why I haven't found anybody in 20 years. Maybe I've ruined myself because I want that guy, but I want that guy who really likes me. Not just falls in love with me. I want a guy who really likes me. I want him to wakes up in the morning and goes, God, I just can't wait to be around Pat because she's fun or she's funny, or I just want to spend the day with her. I want to be liked more than I want to be loved. But hey, I'll take both of them together. But I'm running out of time. I'm running out of time. Partition. I know Partition. Yes. That's another. There's a lot of star-crossed lovers across Pakistan and India. There's a big star-crossed lover thing. Dev Das is one of my absolute favorite movies of all time. Dev Das, which also stars Shah Rukh Khan. Check that one out. It's beautiful. But yeah. Are there any recent ones? There are definitely recent ones, but I'm getting old in the sense that I'm kind of really big on the 80s and 90s Bollywood because they were much more romantic back then, and they're getting much more action film stuff these days, and it's just they're going away from all the music and all the stuff that they used to do, the traditional masala Bollywood movies, which I happen to think are great. So yeah. It's just beautiful stuff. It's beautiful. But, if you're going to have a fantasy, it should be a fantasy where the guy treasures you and loves you, or the woman treasures you and loves you. It shouldn't be a fantasy of being tortured. For the life of me, I don't get why anybody would think that is a great fantasy. And it's sad to me that so many people thought 50 Shades of Grey was like awesome. I'm like, wow. I mean, especially when you're young, because theoretically, and one of the problems we're having in pornography is that so many people are seeing so much pornography by the time they're in their teens that regular sex, vanilla sex, is gotten to the point of being boring. Where it used to be that people fell in love and then they couldn't wait to touch each other. That was good. That was awesome, just to be able to touch each other and kiss and, And then, then you got married, and maybe 10 years later, you're like, we're getting a little bored. I get it, but the fact that you're bored when you're 16, 20 years old, and you want to get involved in BDSM, I just find really super sad. Swingers stuff, just sex clubs, there's orgies. I mean, it's pitiful. It's absolutely pitiful. Everything Diddy did is disgusting and pitiful. I think his stuff is disgusting and pitiful. And I think women getting involved in it is disgusting and pitiful. So I'm really tired of trying to prop up BDSM as some kind of great option for, hey, people are consenting, maybe they enjoy this kind of thing. I don't care anymore. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of you pushing despicable behaviors toward each other that are just basically not anything about love. And I think that love should be involved in sex. I just do. And I understand lust can be involved in sex, which maybe lust isn't so bad, because at least lust makes you want to make love with the person. It's just exciting, but that's not what lust is about with BDSM or any of the stuff. It's all about power, control, and humiliation and submission and being dominant, and just the things of human nature that we should be avoiding and not promoting. So yeah. So if you put any stuff in my comments, how BDSM is perfectly fine and lovely, I'm just stop blocking the hell out of you. I don't care. I'm sick of it. Totally sick of it. This is what you get. So, Lord, you couldn't watch 50 Shades. Yeah, yeah. I don't know that the movie was so badly done. It's just that the concept is so horrifying. And the fact they say people are just not bothered by it anymore. And I think they should be. I think that's one of those things that if people are involved in, I don't want to hear about it. Keep it in your damn closet. I mean, because it's not about love. It's not about good relationships. It's not about caring. It's just about being sick in the head. And so just keep it in your freaking closet. I don't want to know about it. Yeah, I just don't. I don't want to hear about the girls saying, what did she say? She had sex with the sex in 1,000 guys in a day, which I think is a bunch of nonsense bull crap anyway. But you're a piece of garbage. You're just a freaking piece of garbage, and you're out there, and all these people are putting you on their talk shows, and as if you're, oh, isn't this cool? No, it's not cool. There was also a grandma. She had an OnlyFans channel. She was probably, and she calls herself a grandma, so she's like 70 or something like me, and she's not overly attractive, overweight, grandma-y type. And she's like, oh yeah, guys like to look, she's got an OnlyFans thing. She does all kinds of pornographic stuff. And they're like, oh, isn't that empowering? No, you're a piece of shit. I'm sorry. You're a piece of garbage. That's what you're teaching your grandchildren. You're a piece of garbage. Sorry. I hate all that stuff. I just absolutely hate it. So, and I'm just so tired of it being say it's old fashioned to hate that stuff. No, maybe it's just decent to hate that stuff. So, have a loving relationship, care about each other, treat each other well. That's what we should be doing. And if you can't do that, and you think it's fun to humiliate and be disgusting, and or parade yourself naked in front of God knows how many people and have them all have sex with you, sorry. I have no respect for you because you have no respect for yourself. So, okay, that's enough of my soapbox. Okay. Thanks for making me feel normal. I agree with you on all of this. Yeah. Normal is something people don't think you should be anymore. You should be abnormal somehow. But why? Why shouldn't you expect to have a loving relationship, to have sex within a loving relationship, to make love to each other? Why shouldn't you have that expectation? I know sometimes people get married, they've been in a relationship for a long time, they get bored with it. I get that stuff. That does happen. But you don't just spice it up by being repulsive, and you don't have to leave the marriage and be repulsive with other people. And if you're outside of that marriage and you're a beautiful young woman, and you think you have to do those things to have a guy like you, you got mental problems. Go get some help. Please do, because you shouldn't be thinking of yourself that way. You shouldn't. I mean, Oh, good. Liz says, I've been single for over 10 years, and that's okay. I'm very picky for a good reason. I don't care for dating around. I always wish somebody had the opportunity to meet the right person, because I do think when two people come together and they enhance each other's lives, isn't that fabulous? That's really great. Yeah. Imagine finding out your grand did that. That's not very nice, especially when it's on you. It's on OnlyFans. You can see your grand doing it. So it's not even a matter of just knowing she did it. Like back in the old days, it's like, oh yeah, your mom or your grandma used to, be on that corner. But now you have video evidence. Yes, the concept watching Armie Hammer interviewed by peers was sickening. Yeah, I don't know if was there a cover up? We're talking about Armie Hammer, Armand Hammer. Armand Hammer being I think the great grandfather. Armand Hammer it's a fascinating, watching the House of Hammer was fascinating because the whole history, the whole political thing is fascinating, just because he had so much power, just incredible amounts of power. Armie Hammer, not so much power, and he's basically lowered his power ability to a bunch of women who seem not to have use some sense. Carla says, in my opinion, porn has normalized much of the humiliation, degradation, and sexual tormenting of women, and also some men. Yeah, it is true. Most porn is not soft porn any longer. It's very hardcore porn. It has mostly to do with humiliation, and men mostly essentially doing sexual things to women in a way that is not anything to do with like sensual, shall we say. And there's also gay porn too that is pretty repulsive, because again, it's not sensual. It's degrading and violent, and and it's available to your kids on the internet. And that's what's really sad, because I think so many young people don't even, I mean, I know I was growing up and I was watching The Sound of Music and hoping I would be like Maria and get, say on the hills are alive, and I'd meet the guy, and I had that romantic notion, at least. And I would hate to have that romantic notion be gone by the time I was 12, because all I saw was porn. It's really sad. Yeah. You're talking about Armand was good friends with almost every politician out there, including Princess, Diane. Yeah. So he was everywhere where money existed, and he supported a tremendous amount of charitable stuff in order to keep in good with the politicians and all that. I know it's not a political channel, so I won't get into all that, but he was extraordinarily powerful man, extraordinarily powerful. And Armie, not so much. Armie's just kind of low life, despicable. He's an actor, and I think oftentimes people they give too much credit to actors and actresses. Like, oh my God, they said this or they did that. I'm like, they're actors and actresses. A lot of times, actors and actresses, they're playing a part that, is fake. Now they may be great at acting, in which case I appreciate watching them, and I think thank you for doing this great acting job. Doesn't mean it doesn't tell me anything about them personally, because they're actors. And it doesn't mean they should have any kind of power in my life or in my thinking, because, this person is a famous actor and therefore their political opinion is whatever, or therefore they do this and you should follow what they say. They're just an actor. It's crazy how much people are so, they go in awe of actors. And, so he definitely screwed up with, he destroyed his career essentially over this. And I don't think he's not suing anybody, which means to me it's most likely true. And he's just hoping to resurrect his career when everybody forgets about it. So, he was dashing. Yes. I don't know if you were here the day I talked about my dream. So I had this dream. I had this problem with not being able to. I was like, what do you call that? When you bruxism, where you crunch your teeth, which caused my teeth to be broken, by the way. And I couldn't stop it. It went on for like 2 years. Everything I tried didn't work. And then I bought this pillow, and the pillow goes like this. And I've used that pillow ever since, and the bruxism stopped. But the first day I bought the pillow and I finally laid down on it, I had this dream. And in the dream, I was at this party. And of course, I was probably only 30 years old. And two people were there that I found very attractive. One was Shah Rukh Khan, the guy I just showed you in the picture for Vizara, the Indian actor, King Khan, Shah Rukh Khan. He's one of my favorites. And he was there. And so was Christopher Plummer. So the two of them were there at this party. And the best part was they both gave me their phone numbers. And everybody after that said, where can I buy that pillow? It was a great dream. The pillow was worth it. The night guard didn't. Yeah, night guard did not work for me. Couldn't do it. Couldn't do the night guard. I tried it. That was one of the things so I wish it had worked, but it did not. So, but the pillow is great. The pillow has worked. I have not had the problem since. So, yeah. But anyway, those are my thoughts on this very perverse, toxic thing. Yes, are these toxic relationships? They are. But a lot of sad part is that sometimes when something's toxic, it's because both people are putting some poison into the old mix. And yes, one is more of the psychopathic perpetrator, and the other one is more the prey. But don't be the prey. Don't be the prey for the perpetrator. You have to examine yourself. If you're falling for this kind of stuff, you have to examine why you're doing that, because I say some of these women they seem intelligent, they have good jobs, they're very beautiful. You look at them and go, why are you going, why do you feel a need to go there? People say, well, I know if you were like poor and not very attractive, you just say, hey, I got to take what I can get. I'm willing. But here you're a woman who seems like you should have choices in the world, because you are good looking and intelligent and all that kind of crap. But then you fall for this nonsense. So you have to examine yourself. Don't become prey. And I say, usually there's a problem with the prey. And people don't want to admit that. They just want to always say, oh, God, why don't you just talk about the psychopath? He's the whole 100% fault. Look, if you are the type to become prey, there are tons of perpetrators out there, psychopaths, who will hone in on you. So you can say, oh, that guy's a bad guy, but then there's another guy waiting in the wings. If you cannot prevent yourself becoming prey, you will become prey. So you have to examine your own self to say, why am I that zebra in the field who that lion just ate? Why? I can't stop psychopaths. Once a psychopath is a psychopath, a psychopath is a psychopath. Can't stop them. All I can do is warn people against them and warn them not to be the needy person that falls for all of their stuff, because they are so desperate for whatever they want that they're willing to do oftentimes just about anything to get their illusion granted. So, yeah. Oh, thank you, Clarissa. I appreciate that. The dream pillow. Yeah, I love that pillow. I do. I have great dreams. I'm a very big dreamer. I do have lots of dreams, and I dream all night long. And I go to bed, and I'm busier sometimes when I'm sleeping than when I'm awake, because I have all these places I go and all these people I see. It's really good. And I don't need any of these guys because they show up at night with no repercussions. No. Oh my God. Liz says, very interesting show, Pat. I always look forward to Sundays because of you. Enjoying your book on Cleopatra. Thank you. That's one of my favorite things of my life. And I have a person who wants me in a documentary. So I'm doing what's called a sizzle next week, which is just where I'm talking about some serial killer guy, and for a possible future documentary. But she just finished my Cleopatra book, and she is interested. She's a producer, and she's interested in it for a series, which I've been trying to get done for a decade. And I don't know that it'll ever come off, but it's nice because that's a pet project of mine, and I hope it does. So anyway. Oh, how my VR Googles. I enjoy them every once in a while. They're a little bit, because of the heaviness of them, a little bit hard to use sometimes, but I wish they'd get thin and easy, but I do like them. That's fun. Wait a minute. I didn't go to Jersey because I wanted to watch today. Wow. Okay. I'm not sure I understand that, but okay. Because this will be around, this video will be, unless YouTube cancels it because I read half of my story. So, you got to watch because it's raining. Now, we need some rain here because I say it's very hot, and it's like, so anyway, okay. Anyway, guys, thank you for being here. It's been great. I'll see you for the hangout during the week. And if you're new to the channel, again, please do like and subscribe. And please don't become prey, okay? Please. It's always a sad thing. I just don't. I hate to see women and men ending up somebody getting you. Don't let it happen. See you later. Bye-bye.